Hello guys, welcome to another episode of Ripster Daily Trade Recaps and Daily Teachings. Alright guys, before discuss anything we discuss is just for educational purpose, nothing is financial advice. Alright guys, another trend day in the market, another bullish day for SPY QQQQ, SPX. We'll talk about those longs. Market has been running insane since the start of this month. Institutes are loading, funds are loading, so we see a lot of big moves. So it's just an easy day with this kind of trend day, and we just killed it again. Most of the traders were green in the community. 76 traders were green in the community by end of the day. Only 13% traders were red. Trading with confidence, becoming consistent traders. All the teachings that I teach on X, on YouTube, or that I teach on in my community, right? So before we start, just a quick introduction. I'll try to keep it small. So we trade a repeatable system based upon my teachings of Ripster clouds. Thousands of traders across the world use Ripster clouds, Ripster MTF clouds, and all my teachings about swing trading, investing, psychological concepts, mental concepts, risk reward, everything that I teach, that I've been teaching and for freely to the traders over the years on YouTube, X, ripstereducation.com. Thousands of lives changed. We do that every day. We trade this in our live community, Tanner Trade Group, one of the largest online trading communities, and also Tanner Research, which is our investing branch, investing and swing trading branch firm as well. We use the concepts there. We have a plan in the pre-market. We share, we make a plan live, what we're gonna do, how we're gonna do it, what is our bias. Everything is shared in the pre-market. You can see the Ripster the news plays, Ripster day 2 strategy. We share that as well. We trade futures, amazing day for futures. If you long followed our plan here, guidance, we trade low floats, penny stocks, ETFs, Mag 7s, we trade crypto stocks, we trade everything, and everything is planned by our team in the pre-market, and I try to share this as well on X as well, and I talk about the setups that we are trading. I show you the recaps, and thousands of traders in the community, a lot of free tools in the community worth $600-700 free for everybody to use. And I'm live on the voice, I'm live on the screen share. I guide my traders through these setups, not spoon feeding, but showing them live how to trade these setups, when to get out, how long to hold, and how the traders are consistently changing their lives. So that was a quick introduction. Let's start how we traded everything. Let's start with the first play, SPY QQQ, SPX, NASDAQ, and ES future. All right, so it was another bullish day. The plan this morning, we didn't really have to plan too much. SPY was gapping up because AI names were super bullish. There was a news on AI, photonics, US drafts a bill to ban the China center data center components. So guess what? That pumps all the US data center companies. So of course AI name was gapping up. So you have seen that when we were dumping last few days, there was not a lot of news. Now when we start to pump, there's a lot of bullish news coming in. So that's how the names go crazy. The names are up 30, 40, 50% in the last 3-4 trading days. That's insane, but it is what it is, and we are ready for it every morning. So this morning I told the traders SPY is a good consolidation, but we need to watch out for any profit takes. VIX today was not really helpful, so we didn't really focus too much on VIX. It was a divergence day, but we did have a plan that we will long it over the pre-market levels. We give these levels on SPY QQQs in the pre-markets. You can pause the screen and see the resistance. You long over that. When Ripster clouds tell you, future levels were also given. We long over those levels as well. My concepts of amateur move, which is an initial move, and then we focus on the 9:40, 10 a.m. moves. Then we also have a 10 algo. I discussed about the trend day yesterday. How we traded the trend day, and today was again another trend day because you did not see any pullback after 10 a.m. You continue to see higher lows, higher highs. Insane day for SPY, 133% ATR. Insane day for QQQs. I'm not going to spend too much. My traders were already long. I told everybody at 9:34 amateur longs. That means the initial long is holding. You hold. As we started to move up, I told the traders to move the stops up. And once I saw this breakout at 9:45, I said hold in into 10 a.m. trend time. and then longs were working nicely on SPY QQQs. We trimmed some at 10 a.m. And then what you do is at 10 a.m. you take some profits, but if you see that it's holding the 10 a.m. and it's making a new high over the 10 a.m. highs, you add back into your position, you add more into your position, you hold with the Ripster clouds all day long. Day like today is when you make a lot of profits, so that when there's a choppy day, you don't have to do much. When there's a choppy day, you can, if day like today, you need to grow your account 5, 10, 20%, whatever your risk reward is, so that on a choppy day, even if you are down few percent, doesn't really matter, because day like today is when you hold all day, respecting the Ripster cloud. Never broke, no reason to exit. I told the traders use the 512 stops at 11:30. As we continuously moved up, I told the traders to move to stop 770 on SPY, 720 on QQQs, and finally when we broke at end of the day, that's when you exit. So if you held all day, if you're trading all day, what I tell my traders to do, and they were of course holding and not cutting it, you could really look good. The lot of options went from like 20 cents to four bucks, right? You could make 500, 600%. If you're taking smaller options first, let's say you make 3-4 grand, you take some of the profits, throw into the further lot of options. So if you want to trade that way, so you can trade the SPY QQQ that way. Now, I also teach how to trade leverage ETFs. There's many leverage ETFs. You can find those leverage ETFs. If you go to the funds on SPY, you can find a lot of those leverage ETFs that you can trade. There's SPYU, you could trade that, ran from 34 all the way to 36, or you could trade NASDAQ futures, NASDAQ futures and SPY futures. Look at that, NASDAQ futures and SPY futures all day long. Just had to long all those levels we gave, and QQQ NASDAQ futures long as well. So nothing too much here. I just showed you the pre-market plan. My live guidance on the voice trend day was just an insane day, and this helped us to pick many winners again, because on a day like this, you focus on the best setups and you focus on the longs, not on the short. We do not short these moves. Only the amateurs short it, right? And so another trend day. Let's go to our other plays, our earning plays, how we killed it, and what was my guidance on main plays. I'll show you the guidance, I'll show you the timestamped pre-market plan, and how we killed that trend day in the community. So let's go start to talk about that. All right, so let's talk about PLTR. Before I talk about it, let's go to PLTR. Let's look at our 10 at research earning analysis. So what were we looking at the earnings? Revenue grew 92%, EPS grew 156%. Really good earnings. Although it's overvalued, but that's fine. Nobody cares when the sentiment is good. There's volume, there's trend. You don't care. You see earning is good, insane amount of growth. In next few years, you can read through our earning analysis. So we had a bullish bias, right? So we had a bullish bias. We also traded PLTR yesterday after hours long. You can see my fills here. We started buying from 131 all the way to 140s and 145s. It was a huge winner for us long yesterday and this morning as well. We had a plan for PLTR. Let's look at our plan. Plan on PLTR, pretty simple. Bullish bias to long as 144 holds. So we will long it. If we see 144 breakdown, we will get out. Pre-market high breakout is over that level. Avoid under 142 and 143. 148, 150. If 150 is a big breakout level, it's a psychological level. So as soon as the market opened and I see the strength, I told the traders to long PLTR. You can long the pullbacks versus 143. Put your stops at 143, 142, right? So didn't really give the pullback. So you got to add right away. I mean, I can go to the smaller time frame and see where the traders were adding it. You see the 2-minute time frame. The first candle pushed. The second candle pulled back to 147, 146. You add there. I had at 148. Let me see if I can show you that. So you add it there and you hold it, right? So you can see that where I had a 148 entry, you had it, and this was the breakout. I tweeted the breakout as well. So I tweeted, that PLTR breakout. Let me show you if you can see here. 150 breakout PLTR. 150 breakout PLTR. So I also tweeted my followers. So my followers did also pretty good on that. And no hindsight. So breakout is 150. First target 155. As we started to move up, you just had to move your stops up. You do not cut your full position. Even if you hold your 20% of your position, you still can make a lot of money by the end of the day. So the traders usually cut early. That's not how you do it. When your setup is working, you hold it. So 155, the first target I gave. The second target I gave, we kept moving the stops up. The second target I gave was 158 and 160. What happened when we hit the 168.60 target? Pulled back, held this level, rejected 160, pulled back, held, then broke. Even if you take some off at 160, you see this level is holding, 512 is holding. You hold some of your position, or you add back more of the position, or you have some profit you can add into your lottos. And then we hit the 160 flag breakout, right? So that was the 150 flag breakout. As we broke out of that flag, we continued to push up. I told my traders to move the stops to 160, 150. Also, PLTR is one of our top investing names that we, that's our top conviction in our investing platform. PLTR was the top runner, 30% gains there on our investing platform as well. So many ways to trade this PLTR. PTIR, you could trade PTIR. You could see that PTIR is a leverage ETF. You could buy 14, 14, 20, hold it all day, 1,000 shares. You'll make $3,000 there. But this was a trade where you turn your $1,000 into $7,000, $8,000, your $4,000 into $15,000, $16,000. This is how you grow your account consistently. Defined risk, no gambling. Defined risk. I told everyone, look here, 144, we get out. This level. You need to know your this levels when you're longing it in the open. You need to know your levels when you long at the open, where the risk is, where the breakout is. This was the pre-market high breakout. This was 150 breakout. And rest is history. Beautiful trade, amazing day. Will be, been one of the best weeks for us this week, also in the past few months. And you could see that how traders killed it on PLTR. I encourage, if you missed this trade, watch this recap again. You could see that all the traders were on top of PLTR all day. You could trade PLTU as well. And it was not a short, it was a long with the Ripster cloud, pre-market high breakout, 150 psychological breakout, 10 a.m. flag, mid of the day range breakout at 160. You could, we risked $4 and we made more than, $16. One risk to 4 reward trade. Was a beautiful, beautiful long. Let's go to the next one. All right, so next one I'm going to talk about is Caterpillar, CAT. So what was CAT doing? So CAT was another of our earning plays today, another home run, especially if you were trading the options. Let's look at the pre-market game plan. Caterpillar, the pre-market game plan was, it was an earning play. Highlighted as a red play is one of my main focus plays. Whatever I like, I usually highlight it as red. I don't pick all of them, but when I see something which makes sense to me, I tell those traders to trade it. I usually teach my traders to pick the few names which you like, right? You got to pick your few trades which you like and focus on them. Try to see if you're picking the right names. I highlight the top plays, and you could pick PLTR, of course, the top one. You could pick anything. When you are trading in the market for some time, you tend to find which are the good setups. So you need to be very, patient. Show patience so that you learn what setups to pick up at the open. It sometimes gets frustrating. Traders say, I picked this up, it did not work. But once you show patience, you can, you will know what setup work. The reason I picked up Caterpillar, because it was gapping up huge from 834s, all the way to 928, almost $100 gap. So I was interested in that. So I told the traders gap and crap short. Already have the pre-market plan here on Caterpillar. 900 psych setup, bullish bias to long over 900, right? 900, 930. Bullish bias to long over the pre-market highs. But once this 512 breaks, our bullish bias is gone. We are no longer bullish, because I know it can pull back to this MTF magnet below, right? And 3450, another MTF magnet. You draw your Fibonacci, like I taught you a few days ago. One of my favorite setup. It pays you a lot. You open, Fibonacci, you see where it's bouncing from, right from the Fibonacci level. That's where exactly it bounced from. Anyways, I told the traders to short it. I put the stops at 925. When I gave the short, we were trading at 920, $5 risk, and we faded 865. So you could see that almost, $45, $50 worth of short there. You're risking $500, you're making $4,000. That's kind of trade you want to do. So I told the traders to move the stops to 915. The targets I gave was 890, 900, and we hit our 890, 900 target. And then we hit our MTF magnet target, and then we finally hit the 61 Fibonacci target as well. You could always trade options on it, but small account traders should not be adding too big of the options. Only you need is one option. That is more than enough. Let's say if the traders were trading, let's say 875 puts, they're not that liquid, but they went from $6 to $20. You could make that a few 100% there. But ideally trade the shares. Even if you had 100 shares, it is 500. you could make few grand on that gap and crap. So repeatable setup, we repeat it for life. We have done it again and again and again. But Caterpillar was a beautiful, beautiful setup winner for the community. All right, so next one we're going to look at is all right, let's look at the next one. Next one, we're going to talk about a Snap. Okay, so why was I interested in Snapchat, right? So let's see how was the Snap's earnings here. Let's go to Standard Research and look at, excuse me. So it was nothing crazy, but they were actually started to grow some revenue, right? Their EPS had a little surprise, 23% growth. Their EPS is growing, revenue growing. So yeah, good earnings. Nothing crazy, but good earnings, right? And the revenue was 1.6 billion, which is definitely increased from the last time same quarter. So it was a good earnings. So the reason we chose a Snap this morning was because it was at a 5 psychological level. I always love the trade setups which are at 5 psychological levels. The plan was simple. Pre-market plan, long over 34.50 and 530, bullish bias on calls, no go under 5. So if 5 breaks down, we are no more interested. As soon as I saw that it's reclaiming this 34.50 Ripster clouds, pushing over this level, I told the traders to long it. My traders are already long. Those who I teach them already long. They're not blind followers, but they follow my guidance to have some confidence and understand, especially the new traders, and they can trade that. So anyway, snap long 540, 545. Your risk is low of the day candle, 525s, and let's say for 540 you're raising 1,000 shares, you have $150 risk, and by the time we hit 570, 580, you're making $400-500. That's a good risk reward. If you're a bigger account, you could trade a bigger size. Of course, if you are in the options, yeah, you could trade 5.5 calls, but they had a lot of IV, but they did go from like 20 cents to 30 cents, a little 100%. Nothing crazy, but low risk play for small accounts. So I gave the snap long right at the open. I told the traders to move the stops to 545. We hit this 545, and then from there, I gave the breakout of 574. Target I gave was 6. We didn't really hit the target. We locked out at 570s, but we did hit 582s. We'll be watching it tomorrow for day 2's setup as well. But Snap was a decent winner for small account traders. All right, so next one we're going to look at is Spot. So Spot had the earning. This is the opposite of the gap and crap setup. This is called gap down and gap fill setup. In this setup, you can always have a Fibonacci to the low of the pre-market and from the closing price if you want, like this, and you just play versus the pre-market lows. So let's look at the plan on the Snap. Snap plan was the call over 3450 clouds. The Spotify. Bearish buys to short the pops, no short over the clouds, only long if pre-market previous day low, pre-market lows hold, 450 for support, 460 for resistance. When I saw this curl, it was no longer a short. There was no longer a bearish bias because we pushed over. So I told the traders to 512 curl longs versus 456. So your stops are at 456 here. And in the first 4 minutes, I saw it pushing right there, and I told the traders to long it. And you see that you could get a pullback here at 469. Of course, at that time, you don't really have to risk 456. You could risk 460. But even if you add it at 470, let's say you're risking $10, we pushed towards all the way to 500, right? You made $30 risking $10. That's a good risk reward. We would have lost $10 per share. Let's say you're risking $1,000, you would have lost $1,000, right? So first target is always the gap fill, half of the gap fill, the Fibonacci levels, the gap filled, and it fit 490. That's where you lock half of your profit. 10 name flag pushing, you hold it 500 psychological level, you lock another, and then you get out once it breaks this 512 right here. That's when you get out. So insane system, insane Ripster cloud system, lets you know when to add, when to exit. No system comes close. You can see we kept moving the stops up. So was another beautiful winner. I mean, you could trade the options or you could trade the shares, but Spotify was our repeatable gap down, gap fill setup. We don't get this much, but that was a beautiful setup. All right, so next one we're going to look at SpaceX. SpaceX was our top play on the day 2 setup. That's my day 2 strategy. it's very important to watch this recap on SpaceX. What happened? Let's go to a day 2 plan on SpaceX here. Number 1 play, bullish bias to long as the previous day highs hold. No go under 115. So that was our plan. We were trading ourselves that 115 level. So, so this was previous day highs, but there was also support here at this pre-market support becomes a resistance. So initially we were long versus 116. But when it broke 512, we exited it. But that was the morning trade that was a loser, did not work. But I did tell the traders that we may get a 10 a.m. curls, right? So this is your 10 a.m. curls. Amateur candle failed, but the 10 a.m. curl was a long again. You get a long back here. You see this level is holding. You put your stops again at 116. You can use the same stops if you want. And then from there it ran all the way to 126. You could make $8 per share profit, risking $2. So that was a SpaceX long. Remember, morning trade doesn't work. Many traders try in the morning and it doesn't work. They are dejected. Later they see, oh wow, the stock went up. Yes, because the morning setup failed, but it will happen many times. But Ripster 3450 did not fail, means the trend is still there, and that's your 10 a.m. flag curl setup, breaks the pre-market highs. If you look at the pre-market planning, what I said was on the day 2 sheet, the level I gave was this 119, which was the breakout level. So once we cleared the 119 or this 118.55, we continue to push all day long. Now we'll trade the earnings tomorrow. We did try to trade it after hours. We exited it, did not work because too much bearish. But this was our long morning amateur losers and later long on SPCX. So let's go to the next one. All right, this one I'm going to talk about the chart setups, how to be ready a day prior. Find your chart setups in Tannet research. In our swing chart setups. Yesterday, I posted this chart setup on AVGO. I told the traders AVGO getting tight, 400 psychological setup, risk is at 385 for your swing trade or your breakout long trade, however you want to trade it. I also tweeted about it on our Tannet charts channel. My team tweeted it out. I always try to give these setups. I've always been giving. Nobody has given more free setups than me over the years. Just been less active posting them. But you see that I posted this AVGO, weekly getting tight, 400 psychological setup, risk versus 380.50. And what happened next? What happened next was this AVGO breakout. You see that? So you can see that the before and after, right? So you can see that on AVGO. You can see the before and after. So that's how you know there's a setup. It's getting tight. You so know the market has a trend day. You get in long right at the open. You get light long right at the open because it's a gapping up. It's a breaking out of the daily chart. Let me just show you right here. So you see that it's daily is breaking out of that tight flag. Even if it's on daily, you can see that how tight it was, and this was the breakout. It's more clear if you go on the weekly chart than what I shared, but you could see that it was a tight breakout setup. Semis are strong, AIs is strong, you long it. So you long it right away, and let's see our pre-market planning on AVGO. The plan I gave on AVGO, 500, 400 cycle just set up, bullish bias to long, over that 403 and 405 breakouts, right? So once there was a breakout, you get in long right away as soon as you see this candle pushing. You see the 10 a.m. flagging, you hold it, and then you see the 10 a.m. flag breakout all the way to 422. So even though it gapped up from our initial level, but you could see that the breakout gave us a nice follow through on AVGO. You over 400 psychological long, 400 psychological setup, and from that 400 psychological setup, you see that 400 held. That's your risk. You can add here. You're risking $4 or $5, and you're making $20. That was a beautiful setup. That's how you find your chart setups. That's how you trade. I continuously try to post the chart setups in our Tannet Research swing trading platform as well, and I'll try to share it on my X as well. So let's go to the next one. So next one we're going to talk about is ARM. So yesterday in our chart we talked about that ARM swing setup. So I gave this swing setup to the traders that is setting up for this. Why was it? Because every other AI name was running, but ARM was lagging, right? ARM was lagging, and I saw this nice little support here, and I saw this as well. So I gave the swing actually yesterday, middle of the day. I told the traders you can swing it, and yesterday ARM was trading nicely right here at 34.50. So this is where I gave the swing 236, and you could add it, and it gapped up, and then it continued to break out there as well for a beautiful MTF magnet, MTF to the MTF magnet long setup there on ARM. You know, I also tweeted about on ARM on our Tenet chart setup. If I, always try to share the setups with my traders as well. So this is the setup I shared with ARM right here on my X, on our X as well. It was a good setup versus 220, and it went on to give you a nice swing winner. So that's how you find your setups, analyze your charts, and look for the next big runner. So another chart setup I gave yesterday was Qualcomm. Let me show you what setup I gave was Qualcomm. I told the traders that Qualcomm swing watch versus 143, 145. No hindsight, you could see that. It was a beautiful, beautiful base. And if I want to show you the Qualcomm, how it's looking now, you will see that that beautiful base actually broke out. Nice little bounce, still looking like a good swing setup from there on Qualcomm, and that was a beautiful intraday long right from the open and went on to continuously to run. And this was all posted yesterday as well on our Tanner research feed. That's how you find your setups. All right, let's quickly look at some other setups. Apple was good today. Apple was a day two setup. The reason I put it on a day two setup on Apple today was because Apple was was the only one which didn't move yesterday. So I said 300 psychological setup, 350 calls versus 300, and Apple, just getting long here, 512 calls, ride it to the MTF magnet all day. Pretty simple setup, gave in the pre-market. That's how you find your setups. So there was many other setups we traded in the community. Micron was a good one. I'll just show you from the trader in the room, one of our senior traders. So they took this Micron long. The plan on the Micron was from our day two setup. The plan on the Micron, let's look at our day two setup here. Long over the pre-market highs, bullish bias if breaks out of our daily 50-55 MTF. And the traders, you can see that how the trader took it long, bodied at 833, rode the clouds all towards the magnet. There were some other setups as well. Our traders were trading in the community. AMD was a beautiful long as well. From our game plan, AMD right here, 500 psychological setup, bullish bias to longs. Of course, it had earnings, so we were trading that. You could see that the trader longed it at 510 for daily 2021 MTF, long over the pre-market highs, held it all the way, and made a nice 20 per share. And all these trades are continuously posted on our trading floor. One of the best traders, just regular traders helping each other, finding success in the market, like Micron, AMD. All those were beautiful trades. Great guidance by M Trade there. Just a beautiful trade there. All right, so hopefully you learned a lot. Make sure you use these concepts. Take care. Bye bye.